Global crude oil prices, what could they be? Zero? Oil goes to zero value because there's no more demand? Or could it be really $300 a barrel? That's a great question, but let me give you what I think. The reality is, most professionals that try to quote and anticipate where crude oil prices are going have no more information than I do. And what they're really doing is guessing, and they're trying to stand hard that their guess is a fact. Look, we're 101 million barrels a day of consumption. They scream demand destruction because of 4 months worth of higher oil prices. Most of you don't even realize that we had the same price for oil back in 2011 and 12. We lived with $95 to $110 a barrel. The difference is we weren't burning 101 million barrels a day, and we didn't have 10 to 20 million barrels a day not being supplied because the Strait of Hormuz is shut. Now, I can tell you this, if you start to think about the value of crude oil, it's going to be really simple. It's no different than buying milk at the store. If the cows stop making milk, or you can't get the milk to market, the gallon of milk is going to be a lot higher. The problem with milk is that it's finite, it has a definite shelf life. Crude oil is forever. It can sit in the tank, it can sit in the ground, it's been there for hundreds of millions of years. The question for oil is a little different. It's logistics. You got to get oil from a place that is hard to find, hard to explore for, difficult to get to remote areas, that end up being in highly public areas like cities, municipalities, and very highly populated countries. So let's just take it like it is. 101 million barrels a day. The question is, what is demand destruction? Is it losing 1 million barrels a day, 2 million barrels a day, 5 million barrels a day? Well, let me give you a counter decision. The counter decision is simply this. There is probably more supply destruction than there will ever be demand destruction. Because all the new oil that they're trying to put online around the globe, and they're talking about new pipelines and new areas like Vaca Muerta down in Argentina and Brazil and Guyana and all these different countries, the reality of it is none of that really made any sense before the war started. So why would it make sense today if oil is going to stay at $65 or $70 a barrel? What you really have is a new economic paradigm where the amount of demand destruction is going to be far less than the supply destruction taking place across the globe. It's going to cost more risk, more absolute difficulty logistically getting oil from one place to another. If you learned anything watching the last 30 days, you've watched the Ukrainian war with Russia. Ukraine has created a brand new type of war. It's called an economic war using drones. And those drones are dismantling Russia, one of the largest oil producers' entire refinery and production and transportation system of anywhere in the globe. Now you start showing that to other countries who would like to have disruption to Western values and Western economies. You have a whole new risk in oil and gas, crude oil transportation, production around the globe that has never been factored in before. Demand destruction, not worried about it. You might lose 1 million or 2 million barrels a day. You're going to offset that with AI, artificial intelligence, technology, manufacturing, logistics, wars. $37.5 billion the United States burned up in the last 4 months in the war with Iran. How much is it going to take to replace all those weapons and all the different things that were used during the last 120 days of that war? What's going to take place over the next 120 days if the war doesn't come to a halt? I believe they asked for something like another $80 billion. So look, I'm just a simple guy. I look at all the media, I look at all the press, and they all stand hard on all their facts. I pulled it up. I looked at the top 20 predictors of oil and gas prices. You know what they say? If it completely dissolves any conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, you could be looking at $50 to $60 oil. Nonsense. Not going to happen ever. What will the U.S. producer do? You drop oil below $60 a barrel, you'll see 50 to 150 drilling rigs laid down within 30 days. You'll see people choke their wells back, we'll stop producing more, and what we'll do, because we're not dumb, we'll simply sell less for a heck of a lot higher price, and we won't drill for new wells as the older wells decline. The same thing's going to happen in OPEC and the UAE and all the other oil-producing countries in the world. We're not dumb. If you can't pay us what the price is to harvest the oil and gas in the ground and deliver it to the customers, we just stop drilling. Now, on the flip side of that, let's talk about the supply side. All right, supply is going to be limited because we have a new logistical, geopolitical event, geopolitical factor no one's ever factored in before. The power of the drone. You run a drone series down a pipeline and blow it up, you can't replace it fast enough. You take a drone swarm and you run across a bunch of tanks at a port anywhere in the world, you dismantle disruption in terms of logistics and supply and demand and pure insurance. Insurance companies are not going to insure vessels, vehicles, Aframax, waterborne, landborne vessels and trains going any direction if there's a tendency that the equipment and the utilization of those transportation vehicles cannot be insured. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem, and this problem is very simple. We have a value for the price of crude oil today at about $87 a barrel. The question is, what does it look like between now and December? My prediction is we average $95 a barrel or more by the time we go from today until December 31st, 2026. And there's a true fundamental fact. We could see oil over $125 a barrel by Labor Day. It is a massive, massive disruption in supply created by a massive who can outbid who scenario on the global market. Who has the money to buy crude oil at whatever price, because their economy has to have that crude oil to be economically viable and stay active in running their country's economy. Let me tell you what, the haves and the have-not, the spread's getting wider. And guess what? The price of crude oil is going nothing but up from here.